Okay, so this tutorial will be for the frame pendant, and I can kind of add a lot of different variations to this, change it up a little bit, but I'm gonna go with the recreating the example. So first, my plan is to sketch it out. So I'm having two layers. I have the back piece, which has the tabs included on it, and then the front, like, frame section. So I want to go ahead and draw both of those out. I think I'm gonna do like fairly small because I'm thinking kind of like a locket. So we'll just do 1 inch. And I'll go ahead and draw that out. I'll let you guys see it when it's ready. Okay, now that I have my back layer sketched out, I'm going to use some tracing paper to directly trace over it so I can make sure that my two shapes will like line up on the edges. I can always file them to make them match after I cut them out if they're not perfect, but this kind of hopefully will save me some time. Yeah, another thing, if you can't really draw an oval, like this one's kind of wonky a little. If I were really making this to like sell or to be very professional, I would print out an oval so that I know it's consistent and even instead of trying to hand sketch it. So we'll work on making the top layer now. Okay, so I originally did this one but didn't like what that interior shape would look like, so I altered it to this. I am going to, so this will be my top piece. All this section will be metal, and the interior space will be negative, so a hole right there. And that's kind of where my little picture or whatever I wanted to put in there, like my special token. If you have like a ticket that's a special memory, or some kind of like flat paperish type of thing, this kind of solution would be a good way to include something that's more of a piece of paper rather than like a voluminous object. So that's my top piece. This will be my back piece, and they will overlap like this. My little tabs will come over and clamp them together. So I'll go ahead and start cutting this out. And the one thing I do want to make sure I do when I cut this interior out, I'm going to have to cut from the edge since we don't have a drill bit to just only do the middle. I want to line that cut up with a prong or a tab so that when I fold that over, it will be covering my cut, and therefore it will look like whole and solid, and you won't be able to see that cut I made. So I'm going to make a little mark here that shows me that's where I'm going to cut in to cut out this inside part. And also my prongs are quite long. If you can see my tabs, when I fold them over, they would go into this area. I'm going to trim them later. It is better to have your tabs too long than too short. You can always remove metal. It's much more difficult to put it back. So those are my two pieces. I'm going to go ahead and cut those out now, and then we'll come back. Okay, I got my top frame piece cut out. Not cleaned up, sanded, filed, or anything yet, just freshly cut. So that guy's ready. And then I was about to cut out my back, but I realized that I did want to make this a pendant. So I want to include on my back, as well as my tabs, I want to include a little part that will become a bail. So I'm going to actually take this off and flip it so I have a little more space to include that. That's the kind of shape I want it to be, and in order to create that, I actually need to make it mimic, kind of reflect that shape over here so that I can like roll it up, fold it up, and make it a hollow tube where I can put a chain through. Oh boy. So I'm going to go ahead and restructure this a bit. Okay, I have my two pieces cut out, my front and my back. So they're going to layer like this. These will fold over, that will become my bail, and this looks like a turtle right now. But yeah, after I saw my pieces, I'm going to do the same process as my first project and my second project. I will file my edges. I want my two ovals to line up, so wherever there's a little bit excess like sticking up, like up there, I want to file those so they line up, and there's, or maybe that little bit down there, I want them to match. And then I also am going to file my tabs so that they are even widths. This one looks fatter, that one looks skinnier, so I want to kind of make sure everything is cleaned up. And then I'm also going to sand. So for something like this, I need to sand the front of my top piece, but I don't really need to sand the back because it will be forever stuck together like this. I need to sand my, I don't even really need to sand this piece because I'm gonna have a picture in there, and this inside part will be folded over. So front of my top piece, back of my back piece, and yep, I'll get back to you when I do that. Okay, so I have the back of this guy cut. Sorry, sanded. My edges filed. The front of this one sanded. So there are scratches on this part, but again, you're never gonna see it. I have my picture I'm putting in there. I don't have an exciting picture for you guys. Okay, so I'm gonna start folding over. First, I want to make sure it fits and matches. Is my picture? Yeah, okay. Start folding over these tabs. So I'm gonna be careful with everything because I nicely sanded it, right? My pliers are gonna leave some marks, which I'll have to kind of clean up a little bit later. But if I'm gentle at this point, that will kind of save me some time sanding. So I'm gonna grab my little tab and start to bend it with my round nose pliers right at the base there. I'm just going for like between 45 and 90 degrees at this first one. I can also bend from the back, and I'm just gonna do this kind of slowly in stages because I want to keep checking and making sure things fit. So it's looking good right now. So that's good. I'm gonna keep going. So from 45 degrees up to 90, maybe even in a little bit further. And put this back together. Okay, and now I'm gonna start like continue folding my prongs down. So I have some choices on how to do that. I can keep kind of using my pliers to bend this way, but I can also kind of smash them down this way. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna use a different pair that I like better. So slowly start to fold it over. And I want to be kind of strategic about this. So after doing this one, I want to do the one directly across from it. If you do the two at the top, sometimes like everything can kind of shift downwards, and then the top edge might not line up anymore. So I want to try to keep it centered by doing opposing edges. You can see that my little cut right there where I cut out the inside will be covered up by my prong, which is great. Okay, so that one in a little bit, and they're still not all the way down yet. This just kind of allows me to wiggle and play around so that I get everything centered and nothing's like dramatically off. Since I already put that effort into filing them to match. But looks like it's off a little bit anyway. Okay. I might have to do a little bit extra filing to remove that little lip of the back piece that's showing. But I'm going to try not to by pushing this side down first, which will kind of scoot my top layer over that direction. So pulling that over, clamping it down. This time it is pretty much all the way clamped. I can do it a little more. It's kind of a squeezing motion all the way around. And they're still sticking up just a tiny bit, so one final go around to like actually tighten it all the way down. And this is kind of, so that's like tightly together now. I am gonna have to go back and file that little edge so they line up, make it look like nice and neat. But I want to go ahead and do my bail. So I actually have two options. I can either bend it forwards or backwards, and I think I should bend it backwards because I think it will look better. So I want to sand this part because it will be showing now, and I can do that. I'll do it afterwards actually. Okay, so I'm going to grab right there in the middle where I want it to start to fold, and I'm going to support this piece behind with my finger, and then just start to like curl it up. So I have a little hook, and if I want to, I can kind of bend it forwards a little bit so it's a little more centered instead of just hanging off the back. But I'll continue rolling that up. And I'm going to use my other pair of pliers just to help a little. But you can do this only with round nose if that's all you have because you're at home. So there we go. Now I have a little framed pendant. Yeah, again, last step is any touch-up. So you can see I made little marks in my sanding, little scratches. I am going to sand over that, remove it. I'm going to refile around my edges and just make sure that they line up nice and neat and they're matching, looking good like that. And then that's kind of what I'm going for, that part. And then I'm done. That's the framed photo pendant.